Hello and welcome back to the Bright Founders Talk podcast from Temi. Temi is an international software development company that designs, builds and delivers software for sustainable businesses and promising startups. My name is Chris and today's guest is someone who's well versed in the world of finance, greatly helping a plethora of individuals and companies increase their own revenue with iFlip. Randy Tate, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
A pleasure to have you. The first question, we've got some quick fire questions that we always ask. So number one, what is your favorite way to be productive from home?
You know, that's interesting when I heard this question. It's not technology or even lack of it. What the greatest productivity hack, if you will, that I do every day is at the end of every day, I write myself a little list. I take one of these little fancy old-fashioned pen and paper. I know some of you young people might not know what those are, but I take that, I put down the 10 things that have to get done tomorrow, and knowing that I'm not going to get all 10 done. And I try really hard to stay to that list and stick to it. And then during certain times of the day, I'll just stop whatever I'm doing and just go focus on that. And here's another one that I do use tech for, I'll block off at least an hour, 2 separate times during the day to work on that.
Yeah, I think it's really good because a lot of the time myself, I will have lots of ideas that I want to do and I start, one thing 50% and then I jump into another one and then you end up doing nothing in total. So
easy to chase the squirrels.
The second one is, what is something new that you would like to learn outside of work?
Something that's on my list, and it will happen, is I'm going to learn how to formally sail a boat. I don't know how. I've ridden on one that's doing it, but I've never learned. And it is on my list of things to do the next couple of years to get. I don't need to be a boat captain or anything, but I want to understand the basics of sailing.
Is that something you can do from where you're based now? Because I was just checking. I can't remember.
I'm in the Sacramento area, Northern California, but I'm 2 hours from San Francisco Bay.
Oh, right. Nice.
What did you
want
down to the Caribbean?
Yeah, not bad either. Not bad. Spoiled for choice.
Yeah.
What did you want to be growing up? The final question.
Growing up, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. It was something I loved to do. And as I grew older, I still wanted to be a teacher. But the reasons changed because I was an athlete in college. I played football and I wrestled. And I wanted to be able to keep doing those things. And the easiest way to do that was to become a teacher and a coach. So that was, since kindergarten, all I ever wanted to do. And I did eventually make it there and became a teacher out of college. I taught, matter of fact, my first 9 years after college, I was a teacher and coach.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, because I think based on my research, my very thorough research, had all my spies and all the corners of your life, it did seem like overall, it just seems like you're a very altruistic person. It seems like you're doing these things, but everything is kind of to give back, although you're obviously making a business as well, but you're still giving back.
Yeah, one of the things, I guess something I'm pretty good at is finding ways to do current things easier. And by easier, I mean making it possible for more people to do it, enjoy it, be part of it, whatever it may be. Back from when I started a sporting goods company to the small business education and trainings that I've ran, even when I was an executive at the software company I worked at. That was always my role, and that just feeds the entrepreneurialism as well, because, we always say that one of the things that I always say is that if you are going to start a business and be good at a business at any company, doesn't matter the widget, what you sell or do, you either have to show the world that you're better than the competition that exists, you're less expensive than the competition that exists, or you're easier to use than a competition that exists. If you can do one of those three, you can have a successful business. If you can do all three, you can disrupt.
Sort of based on my research of iFlip, the current company that you have, it seemed like there was a lot of involvement with AI. And it's a very hot topic at the moment. And I thought, what better way than, I could make my own questions, or I could use AI to ask the perfect question to you, okay? So I put in lots of details about you, and this is the question it gave me, okay? So see what you think. It said, How does iFlip AI smart portfolio stand out from traditional investment approaches? And how does the use of machine learning benefit individual investments?
Great question. And if you chat GPT'd it, that's probably what you got. Well,
that's what I got.
Two parts. So the first part is, how does the AI work? Basically, is that the fundamental, and how is it a little different? Well, think of it like this: algorithmic trading, which is everywhere, has been everywhere since the 70s and 80s, is simple mathematics. It's better than a human. Why? Well, one, it doesn't have any emotion. We take algorithmic management and we apply machine learning to the algorithms. So it's an interesting thing people don't often understand. They hear the word robo or they hear AI, they assume it's machine learning, artificial intelligence, managing we'll stick with finance, their business. It's not the case. In most cases, there's very little AI being used in the finance space today. Surprise. Although it's everywhere, you see words that are synonyms for it, sounds like it, but they're not using it. So think of it like this: a traditional investment management company uses an algorithm. They may call it AI, but an algorithm, so we're clear, is really just a simple set of mathematics giving a computer instructions. If this, then that. There's no learning going on. So let me give you a simple example. Your algorithm might say, if Apple goes up by $1 today, buy it. And then the computer will do that. That's everywhere. Every financial services place on the planet has that. However, the big problem with that is, in order to change it, me or a human has to go in and change the algorithm. I have to go in and say, okay, algorithm, $1's not enough. Let's make it 2. Okay, great. So now I'm still driven by the human. Machine learning and Flip, the way we do it, is a little bit different. Every stock in a smart folio, to directly answer your question, has an algorithm on it. If it gets to $1, buy it. There's a lot of math behind it. However, it doesn't report to a human. It reports to the machine. It reports to the AI every day. It has to get permission from the AI to execute. And a couple of things are going to happen. Every day, the AI is going to say, yep, good choice algorithm. Go ahead, buy that stock or sell that stock or whatever. Or periodically, it'll say, yeah, the parameters are not good anymore. You've overstepped the risk threshold that we want to take. So we're going to change your rules. So the AI is changing the algorithm. That's the fundamental difference between us and everybody else. And it's not new to us. Machine learning takes time, as does all learning. We've been doing this since 2017. So it's not brand new to us. So the machine has already learned. That makes sense?
So is that something that more that you guys are, because you're saying it's available to most people or people know about, but you guys are taking the risk, or you feel confident in implementing it?
No, we've created it. An algorithm is available to most people, to everybody. Anybody can create your own. That's not a difficult thing to do. Having the AI manage the algorithm. So the AI is in essence managing the portfolio. This is how we're self-directed. We're not regulated like an advisor, because we're not giving advice. We're giving people some options. You got to, and all they're doing is instigating the AI to help them and automate their trading. The AI creates the signals for the customer. So we're truly a self-directed machine that allows us to, there's our be better. So we're better. We are outperforming the market. So we're better. Our AI is better than most advisors. 2, we're easier to use because it's automated. There's 2 of your 3. Now we're automated, does it for you.
I assume, or just to break it down a little bit, that instead of kind of giving your money to an investor and saying, okay, make that a bigger pile of money, you're more of a guide. Like, okay, look, here you can do it yourself and use this, and you kind of help people to do it themselves.
Correct. However, we happen to have an automated feature inside of there, or you can just say, this is what I want you to do. I want to pick the balanced smart folio I want to put $50,000 in the balanced portfolio, smartfolio, or $500. It doesn't know the difference. And then it will take over from there and automatically execute everything for you. Doesn't send you a signal to you that says, hey, buy this, or hey, sell that. It does it for you. Automatic.
Okay. Interesting. Well, that was the AI or chat GBT's question. From a more human perspective, and hopefully a more interesting perspective, or probably the same, hopefully. I want to hear a little bit more about you going to your background. So, because I saw that you, going back to your studies, for example, you studied health science or health sciences, and you did a master's in science. So, like, what was your mindset then? Was it very far from what you do now? Did you have a different vision?
Yeah, a lot different. I wanted to be in the science realm. I love science. Yeah, I liked anatomy, physiology, biology, all of those kinds of classes. In fact, early on, I was a biology major. I switched that to health sciences. So because of the things in the state of California, that degree would allow me to teach. There was more classes I could teach at the high school level, making it easier to get a job. And my master's degree is actually in education. It's a master's of science, but in education. And again, it all came back to the teacher. And interestingly enough, I don't do a lot of science anymore. I don't, teach anatomy and don't teach classes on the weekends or anything like that. But what I did learn, and I say this a lot, the part of the teaching that's carried over to all of this from the science perspective was the coaching. I often make a joke about it, but people don't, I'm serious when I say I learned the fundamentals of running a company coaching high school freshman football. And people, they're like, what? How does that happen? I'm like, look, if you can coordinate 55 13-year-olds, you can coordinate anything. And I say it in a jokey manner, but the reality of it is true. You have to have a plan. Everybody has to have a role. You got to get the right butts in the right seats on the right bus. Not everybody can be on the bus. I subscribe to the world's not fair. And we make our own luck, and that no one's going to give you anything. So you have to build that yourself. And that's the correlation. The science part was one, I liked it, very interested in it. I'm an avid scuba diver, spend a lot of time scuba diving in my free time. So that part of the world is very important to me. But this side of the house, it's just the Flip became the vehicle. It's the third vehicle for me to grow and eventually sell, but do some good along the way. The sporting goods company I started right after, it makes perfect sense, right? I was a high school coach and a teacher, and I was in a place where there was not great service for athletes and for the folks to buy their uniforms and equipment and those kinds of things. So I saw a spot that needed help. That's where I started the company, ran that for 5 years, and then sold it to a publicly traded company that wanted to be in that space. Then basically did the same thing with the small business education and training, and then spent time there.
I was just going to ask about, I thought it was really interesting to go back to the idea of coaching, 15, 13-year-old teenagers and that kind of thing. Because I really wanted to ask, is there like any skill that you have brought over from your early career and your time studying? And it sounds like it's that. And so do you think a lot about the chemistry between the employees in your current company, and like what kind of atmosphere you want to have to help motivate or help build a better company?
Something I ask every person that I interview is, and I get a lot of inquisitive looks when I say this. If the job's perfect for you and you love it and you believe in our vision, you like our company, you've met the people, and you just think this is the place you would love to work, would you do it for 2/3 the salary you could get elsewhere? And then I don't talk. They don't know. People don't really know what to say to that. And there's not a wrong answer. There's not. It's okay not to do that. You don't have to be the person that wants to give everything and make less. And I'm not telling them I'm going to pay them less, but I want people to consider happiness and purpose in the interview process. If I can pay you $100,000 and you love everything you're doing, but the other guy can pay you 120 and you'll be miserable and micromanaged and, not in a happy space. Which would you prefer? There's not a wrong answer. This isn't to make people wrong or want them to do something different. I just want to hear their opinion on it. But, if they're going to beat the table and say, nope, it's my job, I'm worth 120, I'm going to get 120, I'm like, that's awesome. Good for you. Doesn't, which is not a bad thing. Doesn't mean I'm not going to hire them. But it lets them know that we're very interested in making sure the right people are on our team. And when we go through, for any position, we go through a pretty lengthy process to get people on board. Because of that.
I suppose that also helps you to understand how, so even if you have those different types of people, one motivated by what they're doing, purpose, and other by money, then at least as a boss that you know how to push them and how to get them going and stuff. We're offering more money or offering more responsibility, etc. So it's quite a good way.
Yeah, you want people that are attached. Oh, sorry. Chris, you want people that are attached to what they do. If especially at our stage, when you get to big corporate, it becomes really difficult. But at a small company like us, we can control if the people around us that are working with us every day truly want to be there. If there's a little passion in the purpose of what's going on. Down the road, I know that won't always be the case, but we're going to foster that culture as long as we can.
Just on a personal level, talking about the size of the company, because I also want to talk about that because it seems like you've been involved in a lot of, like, the next one you were working as a CEO was Capital City Wellness, which was working with startups. So I'm just curious, is that what you like? Do you like to have a baby and grow it and then let someone take over when it gets to X size, or what would you like to see this through this time?
In our industry, I'm also realistic. What do they? At some point, somebody's going to want to take over, and I'm not going to let my ego stop Flip's growth. If we get to that point, and they want me to stay and run it, I will for a while. Happy to. I'm happy to grow it, happy to scale it. Don't want to get into a position where I'm going to beat my chest and say, this is my thing. I'm not letting it hurt the employees and hurt the growth of the company because of that. So, yeah, at some point, I would say I'm probably better at getting it going. At least the track record shows that. We'll see where we land.
That's the hard part. So
that is the hard part.
Well, just to touch on the other companies you were in before, like say Capital City and Infusionsoft and Growth Choice, for example. I'm just curious again, like your experience in those, was it mostly, was it mostly good times, or was it kind of a mix? And if there were some difficult moments, how did you overcome them?
Most of them were all great. It's been a really blessed journey so far. Of course, at Infusionsoft, they were a much larger company. They were, worth $1 billion when I was there. And so they had lots of resources. And, some of the struggles there, early, at that size of the company, just watching the expenditure that wasn't controlled. I consider myself very fiduciary and very responsible with money, particularly investor money. Sometimes at big scale, I imagine, Apple and those guys are the same way, that when you have tons and tons of it, you almost struggle to find things to spend it on. That was a strange concept for me, but, and a bit of a struggle. But at the end of the day, if you got it, why not, I guess. So that would be my biggest struggle, making sure that there's a proper responsibility of the money that the company has. Particularly like our company, we're not profitable yet, and we probably won't be profitable until early 2025. And so, we're trying to grow within our means without getting way out over our skis, and that's the hardest part. You see the vision, you see what you want to have in a year, and it costs a certain amount of money, so you got to go make it or raise it and get to that point, and just step by step, incrementally move yourself along. That for founders in general, that's the hardest part. That is and Yeah, I've done it, 3 times. It is really hard to pick and choose what you spend your money on, and because you only have a certain amount of it. We're not all Elon. We can't just go write checks with multiple numbers on the left side of the second column. Okay, not yet.
Speaking to other people, as well as like my own opinion of these, being in that beginning stage, or let's say a smaller company or medium company, like when you have you have a budget, right? Do you feel like you have to be more creative with how you spend it? And maybe that's more interesting because you have to find those little holes, right?
100% creative use of funds is critical, and being, we're putting on an event. You just got to be tougher with the hotel. Be more picky. Maybe you don't get to do it at the 5-star hotel. You're not at the Venetian in Vegas. You're off the strip. If you're going to do an event, if you're going to do some education, what kind of amenities are you going to provide the attendees? How many T-shirts do you make? All of that stuff. It does matter, and people might say, "Well, it's only $500." No, it's $500, and even though $500 isn't going to make or break your company, a bunch of $500 will.
Just to look at iFlip a little bit more, on the website it says stay ahead of the market, and I think from an average Joe like myself, especially in finance, it's quite scary, that perspective. Like, how do you even get into it, and then how do you stay ahead of it? So how do you stay ahead of the market then? How can iFlip help people be able to do that?
So this is probably the most important part of this chat. What we do, well, let me back up. What I learned, my business partner in this business, Kelly, his name is Kelly Korshak. Kelly is the brains behind the AI. He's the one that created it. He's the one that developed it. He also developed all the algorithms. When I met Kelly, I was vice president at Infusionsoft, and we started talking, and I started learning that Wall Street itself, passes all the risk of investing to Main Street. They do not invest the same way they're telling you to invest. If you believe that BlackRock or JP Morgan is investing their own money into the funds that they've created for you, the public, to invest in, then you don't understand at all what's going on, because they don't. That's not how they invest their money. We wanted to build something that would allow someone like Kelly, who's managed not millions, but billions of dollars at a single time. When he was at Deutsche Bank, he ran the risk desk. He had, $5-6 billion of the bank's private assets that he managed. So he knows that he went to Stanford's physics program when he was 16 years old. He's pretty smart. Mm. And people like him develop algorithms, and in some cases AI, for the big institutions to invest in the way they invest. The risk falls onto Main Street. Now, that's part one. That's how we stay ahead of the market, how we beat the market is like that, because the AI that we've created has now learned, and it's doing that. It's more than 100% ahead of it, of the S&P 500 since we started. That's a big deal. Most people would tell you can't do that. Now, I'll give you a couple little terms you won't know, but somebody listening to this might. If you're a trader, you understand what beta and alpha and sharp and all these terms mean. We produce a beta at about 0.5, 0.6, which means we're way less, means we're going to do better than the S&P 500. Well, anybody can do better than the S&P 500. Go to Vegas, put it on black. You just made 50%. You did better than the S&P 500. Now, you took more risk to do that. So risk is the Sharpe ratio. We have Sharpe ratios of 1 or higher in most cases. A Sharpe ratio of 1, here's your math lesson, everybody. A Sharpe ratio of 1 means that you're risking $1 to make $1. Now, if you just go down and invest in the S&P 500 by itself, you can go buy that, get an E-Trade account. It's free. Put your money in the SPY, which is the ETF for it. If you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to have a Sharpe ratio of about 0.35, which means you're risking $1 to make 35 cents, which is better. Obviously, risk $1 to get $1. So how does iFlip work? We give people tools that will allow them to participate in the market like an institution or a billionaire would. Very effective, very efficient, and very risk adverse. So, Chris, we are designed for you. Matter of fact, I'll expect you to become a customer when we're done. Because it doesn't cost you any money to set it up. You can set it up for free. We'll walk you through it, and you pay a very small fee to have your money actively managed by the AI. There's number 3. We wanted to go to the market much less expensive than an advisor.
Is that because like you've kind of explained to the average person, all this stuff sounds terrifying. You know, I'm sweating right now. Just you said beta and alpha and stuff. It's quite scary. So is that you as a teacher, you saw that there was a barrier, and you thought, okay, I know how could be a good company, and I want to simplify the whole thing so anyone can jump in. Is that kind of what you guys do? You get someone in the company and you say, you know, we'll walk you through it.
Perfect. Perfect example. You could go down to a bank, or you could go to an advisor, and you could sit there and fill out a bunch of paperwork and spend a couple of hours talking about everything, and they'll charge you an arm and a leg. Or in 7 minutes, you can jump on your laptop or your phone and set up a flip account. 7 minutes. You can do it all. Point, click, point, click, point, click. We have lots of tutorials if you want to understand it, but we make it very, very simple. I mean, you think about the names of the smart folios. They're pretty explanatory. Aggressive. Should get what that means. Conservative. Balanced. Those are your core. Everybody picks one of those 3. Maybe you want to invest in big tech. Maybe you want to invest in other things. And then you let the AI do the work for you. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need to understand what beta and alpha and Sharpe ratios are. Do it
from a personal perspective, talking about those different areas you can invest in. What do you personally sort of advocate? Like, because you got real estate, stocks, cryptocurrency. I suppose it's an endless list. Like, what do you, maybe yourself personally or iFlip, what do you recommend?
So I don't make recommendations. I'm not licensed, so I can't say you should do this or I would suggest you do this. I do teach a class that's on YouTube. You can find it around. I do it periodically with our company. I do it for other businesses as well, called Money Rules. So inside of Money Rules, I'll give you just a really quick synopsis of it. The Money Rules, the way I structure them, you want 70 to 80% of your money into very safe things that are going to produce, around what the S&P 500 produces, that are liquid. Real estate's not liquid. You buy a house, you got a house. Who knows what's going to happen, how long you can have to have it. So when you do that kind of a thing, that's different. Maybe 20% of your money goes into things that are not liquid, that might give you a better return, might have a little bit of security. The other thing I tell people is they jump into crypto, or they try to jump into like crowdfunding or, PPMs of other businesses. Well, there's a legitimate chance you could lose all your money. You could lose it all. You want to put your money in places that you can't lose it all. It's risk managed, and it's going to grow over time. And so we believe long-term investing is the answer. We believe the message financial advisors have been preaching forever is accurate. You want to be invested for the long term, and you want to be in a buy and hold mentality. We've just added one more layer that says, great to be in a buy and hold mentality, but let's just sidestep the big dips in the market. Let's skip those. Let those go through, giving us an exponentially better return over time.
Slow and steady wins the race, kind of.
Slow and steady wins the race. And it wins the race faster. If you look at the last 5 years, 2020 and 2022 in particular, those are 3 to 6 year events. That means if you're getting ready to retire and your money's invested, you're going to need 3 to 6 years to get back to zero. Everyone's talking about how the market has been great this year. Well, the market just now got back to where it was before 2020. It just now got back to its highs. But they don't talk about that. All they talk about is the 18% it's gained this year. Earlier I had somebody ask me, man, your software, it skipped a whole bunch of the 12% uptick when it was at 12. Why? Well, to get that 12% uptick, you would have had to suffer that 19% loss. So you skip the loss in the beginning, you'll skip a little of the upside, and you'll ride it up when it goes up. Patience and risk management
is a virtue, right?
Makes it easier, right?
Just because we're running out a little bit of time, which my final question is more of a general one, but I always think is quite interesting, is if you could shadow any CEO or maybe shadow somebody in a different company for 2 weeks to learn something, who or which company would you choose and why?
It'd be Elon. It truly would. He does not pander or placate, says what he thinks, and exercises his vision with what appears to be not a lot of compromise. So I would be very interested in spending 2 weeks with him. Can't afford to spend 2 weeks with him today, but I would love to.
I think anyone can. Brilliant. All right. Well, I won't hold you anymore. I know you probably need to get back to the beach. So I'll let you go, Randy. And it was a pleasure talking to you. Very, very interesting. And I wish you all the best with iFlip.